Hey, Catalyst crew. Welcome to Catalyst Corner, episode 113. I'm Evan.
I'm Jim.
And we've got some topics today. We're going to talk about some movies. We're going to talk about Marvel. We got some lore we're going to get into. How you doing, Jim?
I'm doing okay.
Good.
I had my physical the other day.
Hey.
So, things are doing okay health-wise. So.
Good. Healthy as a horse.
Maybe.
So listen to this. So, I have the two dogs,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
And the older one, she's 9. She has epilepsy.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been kind of going through that since she was 4.
Right.
So my other dog is 6. And he started throwing up the other day. And he's throwing up. And you give him like a day, see if he gets a little better, maybe ate something, whatever. And he wasn't really getting better. So I brought him to the emergency room, and they were like, oh, yeah, he probably ate something. Like, we'll do some x-rays and see what's going on. So they take him and they do the x-rays or whatever, and then they call me into the room, and they're like, yeah, he's, he has pneumonia, like he, from the throwing up, he probably got some fluid in his lungs or whatever. They go, but we found this, and it's a tumor. And they're like, yeah, so, you're looking at weeks.
Yeah. That is just awful.
So
that sucks.
Yeah, so having a pretty hard time with that.
Yeah, I bet.
They gave us some options, and like they weren't good.
Right.
They were like, you can spend $30,000 on chemotherapy and surgery and stuff, and that might buy them 8 to 12 months if you're lucky.
Yeah.
And it's like, but what's the recovery? The recovery's 3 to 4 months, and it's like, so he's going to be laid up for most of it anyway. Right. So it's like, what do you even...
Yeah, for that much money, that's crazy.
Yeah, so we're just trying to make him comfortable and,
Yeah,
so...
That's awful.
Yeah, so that was shitty.
Yeah, I bet.
Speaking of shitty, I finished Snow White.
Oh, did you?
My God.
Yeah.
It physically hurt me.
Yeah, I bet it did.
Because here's the thing. Like, it started off whatever. It was like I told you in the last episode, like the first 15 minutes are, you could interchange it with any sort of musical, right? Like, because they're using their own original songs and stuff, and it's all that same type of shit, right? Like Fantasy Village, the whole town's singing together and all that bullshit, just like how it is in Beauty and the Beast, just like how it is in Wicked, like all that stuff.
Right.
I don't know. I can't decide, like, I guess I haven't seen enough Rachel Zegler to know if she's actually good at acting. Like, I don't know if it's the material or it's just the way she kind of conveys it, but, like, I wasn't rooting for anyone.
Yeah.
And the CGI's bad.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that's, like, really confusing about the film is... So I think originally, like when they kind of dreamed this up or whatever, they weren't going to have dwarves at all.
Right. Yeah.
And they kept that in.
Yeah.
So
they kept the bandits as well as the dwarves.
It's very confusing because like there's the bandits are in there and the dwarves, and it's just like I can't fucking even keep track of all this shit. Gal Gadot's terrible.
Awful.
Like, there's just not... Like, I guess Zegler's voice is good, I guess. Like, that,
Sure.
I'll give her that.
Yeah, I mean, for a Disney type of singing, sure, she works.
Right, like, she worked fine there. But it I just, and I know we say this all the time, but I don't know who they're making. Like, they're definitely... It didn't feel like they were making it for little kids.
No.
Right? So that's the thing.
They
like,
weren't.
To me, like, if you're going to rehash sort of all the Snow Whites and all that sort of stuff, like, you're trying to capture that little kid audience again, right? Like, you're trying to bring them into the Disney fold or whatever. like they did with the cartoons in the 90s, and I know Snow White's the original or whatever, but like, it didn't feel like it was like for kids per se. Like I wasn't like, oh yeah, little kids would love this.
No.
Not that I have kids or know really what little kids love.
I think that I think they wanted to do it for Disney adults who have kids that are going to bring their kids,
and that's,
in hopes that the kids will latch on to it. So but it wasn't made specifically for kids,
right? So, and that's the thing is, I think that they're trying to pander to Disney adults, right? Which I understand from a business standpoint.
Sure.
Like,
well, they're the only loyalists they have right now.
Right. They're loyalists. They have children. Maybe you can bring them in. But when the movie's really not for kids, right? Like, the kids, like, aren't going to want to sit through a 2-hour film. It's 2 hours long.
Right.
And, it's very girl bossy, like, I don't need a prince to save me. I'm going to become the leader, blah, 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 which is whatever. Like, tell whatever story you want to tell, I guess. Like, but I guess it's just like who they're trying to... I guess after watching it, it kind of really made me go, because, like, again, Marvel, Lucas, all of this shit is under the Disney umbrella, right? And I'm like, when it was over, I was just kind of like, who is your, like, if we were sitting down in a meeting with the executives, right? And I said, who is your customer? I couldn't tell you after watching that. Like, I don't know who they're trying to, like, is it Disney adults? Are there enough of them to keep the business going?
No, I think that they think that Disney adults will just buy whatever. Yeah. And I think that you hire somebody like a Rachel Zegler because you think that her generation is going to support her, and therefore, you know what I mean, you're going to get that audience as well, and then you're going to have it in the hopes that, like I said, the Disney adults have kids, and they're going to have their kids also, become interested in watching this movie. And I think that they kind of put a wide net out there as to who they were hoping it would attract, but I don't think they really had any real idea other than, but it feels like hopes that the Disney adults will be at least come.
Right, and but that's kind of how it feels over the last 6 years at this point. Is like, they had a real strong audience with Marvel, right? They had the comic book fandom, they had like nerdcore and all that stuff, and then COVID hit and they stumbled, and they didn't have a great blueprint for their next phases, right? And it just feels like I don't even think they know who their audience is anymore.
They don't.
But I think a lot of these big companies are struggling with that right now. Like, I think a lot of again, not to go on a super tangent or anything, but Zaslav just got voted down for his salary,
and he should.
And what's driving me insane is, they made this big deal about changing HBO Max to Max, and now they're changing it back to HBO Max because they're trying to separate the quality content from all of the bullshit that is coming out of Warner Brothers right now.
Yeah.
So it's just like that thing where it's like, okay, like maybe Warner has a better idea who they're selling to, because they don't seem to be tanking in the at least the film side of things as bad as Disney is.
Right. Well, they had some big hits so far this year.
Right.
So.
Right. So like, as far, like, again, I don't think they're running the company great. I think
not at all.
I think, and I've said this before, not to get too much on the old fucking political side of things, but I think that no matter how big your company is, you're either a movie company or you're a game company, and I think having everything under an umbrella like that, it's impossible to manage.
Sure.
Because they're different industries, they're run very differently, and there's really not a successful, like, for example, right? Microsoft is great at making games, but every time they try to make like a Halo series or something, it fails because they're not good at making film.
Right. The only one that can say they know who their audience is Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise knows who his audience is.
And again, that audience is going to, be sometimes a little bit higher, sometimes a little bit lower, but for the most part, when somebody puts a Tom Cruise movie out, the expectation is X, and you're going to hit X every single time, regardless of the movie you put out.
I'm not a Tom Cruise guy. Like, he doesn't do it for me.
No, nor am I.
But I give the guy credit because he's one of, if not the last. And I don't know so much. I don't know if it's his name that's bringing people in, or if it's just what you get in a Tom Cruise movie.
I think the one thing that Tom Cruise does and has done, and I will give him credit, is he appreciates the fans. The fans are always important, and he doesn't get political. He doesn't take sides.
No, he's
the side of the fan.
Right, but he knows what he's good at, right? And he knows what the fans have signed up for, and he doesn't deviate
and they know
from that.
And they know what the expectation of him is, and that's what he gives them, is the expectation of what they expect.
The thing. You go to see a Mission Impossible movie, it's the only thing that's going to change, or maybe the stakes are higher, the explosions are bigger, but you're going to get what you're going to get. You know what I mean?
No, exactly.
And I think that's one of the few consistent sort of thing. And again, I'm not a huge fan. I think it's kind of creatively bankrupt to keep doing sequel after sequel after sequel. But at the same time, and I think Disney has proved this, is that if you're going to re-release something, it better be, you gotta, fans have an expectation. And if that expectation isn't met, then they're not gonna go.
Well, the problem with Disney in doing this is the fan looks at it and says, besides a cash grab, what is it you're doing this for? And Disney doesn't have a reason other than a cash grab. That's the problem. People look at it and say, what is the reasoning behind doing this? What did you need to tell? What's the motivation? What's the idea? And Disney doesn't have any of that. They can't explain that. The only thing they can say is, well, hey, we're just re-releasing a movie, and we want to make money.
But sorta, like even the Lilo and Stitch thing, right? Mm-hmm. So like that's doing okay.
Sure,
it's not doing
No, but it'll probably get to $1 billion or very close to it.
That's probably their biggest property, or one of them.
Right.
And they changed the whole meaning of the movie.
Right. Which, again, the fans are disliking very much.
Right. Like the movie is about, the family that you find sort of thing, right? Like in the animated version, it's like, he's an alien, but he found his family and blah, blah, blah. And in this one, she's letting the, spoilers, I guess, but, the sister's giving Lilo to the state.
No, but here's the thing, right? So she goes to the neighbor, which is like family, right? So, and Lilo's going to go to college. I mean, what's her name? The sister. I forget her name.
Going to college, college.
But college is like up the road.
Yeah.
Like, why did you... This is my whole point with Disney. What did you need to do that for? What was the purpose of doing that?
She's a girl boss. But then you start to dissect that a little bit, and it's just like, but at what cost?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, she's going to pursue her dream, but she's going to leave her sister in the fucking dust.
Right, but if her sister is only like, okay, you could say, hey, I'm going to go to college. You're going to stay with them while I'm in college, and then I can take classes and I'll be back. Right. They're just going to watch you for the time I'm gone. And like, okay, you can still pursue your dream and you can still be family. But it's like, I got to give you up to pursue my dream because I'm a girl boss. So you're going to, be given up to the state. And these people are like family to you, but I'm not going to be there with you every moment, except I'm only going to be up the road to, the college that's here.
Right, but I got to live my life, so fuck you.
Right, like I need to go party at Hawaii College as opposed to being your guardian.
It's just that thing of, I am all for independent women chasing their dreams and all that shit, but I'm not for people being shitty to other people.
Right.
And every time they try to do this, and it happened in Willow, and it happened in, Snow White. Every time, they try to do this whole girl boss thing, it's always at the expense of, other people.
Yep.
So it's like, how can I get on board with, these quote-unquote heroes if they're doing these shitty things to the people that are closest to them?
Yeah, no, exactly.
Like, walk me through that one, Disney.
Right, and that's why they don't have a real game plan, and that's why they don't have an audience, because they're doing things that are gonna not. There's no appeal to anybody with that. Like, if you think you're appealing to women by doing that, you're not. You're not.
And the subsect of people that would appeal to aren't watching Disney movies.
Right, exactly.
So it's just like, who are you doing this for?
Yeah, for nobody. That's why these movies flop as bad as they do, because they're for nobody.
Are the people in corporate, like, do they go to the movies? No.
No.
They don't give a shit about movies.
No.
Right, and they're making movies for them.
Right. Right. As long as the theme park offsets all the losses, the suits don't care.
Well, the problem is that, Universal just opened up that Epic universe, and people are saying it is.
Yeah, it's gonna destroy Disney in the next few years. It will overtake Disney as the family destination in Florida. There's no doubt about it. But again, right now, until that happens, the park is what saves Disney's financials. So they can make these ridiculous movies and have these ridiculous budgets and have these ridiculous losses and satisfy, whomever. I don't know who is satisfied with them, but until the bottom line gets to the point where Disney is in financial straits, they don't care. They're just going to keep on making these soulless movies for no one, and in hopes that people show up.
Just crazy.
Yeah, it is.
All right, what have you seen?
So, have you seen this movie called The Jester?
Yeah.
You have?
Yep.
Okay. So, I saw I went
See,
by
like,
it,
clips
right?
online or whatever.
No, I just happened to be flipping through to find something, and the aesthetics of the character drew me in.
Yeah,
right?
he's got the suit on, and like.
So I'm thinking, okay, then I'm looking at it like, oh, this looks like an Art the Clown ripoff. Like, this is going to be
that's what I thought
like a
too.
D-level Art the Clown ripoff. I liked it.
So
At the end of the day,
so here's the thing.
I didn't mind it.
It's definitely a B movie.
It is. I'm not saying it's a good movie. I'm saying that my expectations were low, and at the end of the movie, I didn't hate it.
Yeah, me neither. I didn't think it was. And I've seen some fucking garbage.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, clearly,
like
there was a message at the end of, whatever the trauma of the father had that passed on to the estranged daughter.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so the Jester was a representation of trauma that they've had,
and depression and everything, and like you know
suicidal thoughts and things like that. But I thought, again, was he very Art the Clown like? Yes, it was very reminiscent with the miming and the whole aesthetic of it.
Right.
Yeah, and the supernatural elements
I
of
the
it.
Scene
but
in the convenience store, that was pretty good.
Yeah, but again, I said to my partner, I'm like, look, want to just check it out? Like, it's only an hour and a half, right? If it sucks, so be it, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, she, and she looked at it too, and she's like, yeah, okay, it doesn't, it looks
right. The face looks good, like the mask looks good,
and like I said, when it ended, we both said, yeah, that wasn't as bad as it could have been. It was okay. But the other movie I caught, I finally watched, and I haven't seen a Marvel movie in a very long time, but I watched Guardians 3.
What'd you think?
I liked it. I dug it.
Yeah.
It was the proper send-off, the proper end of a trilogy movie.
It hit all the notes.
Yeah. I mean, again, it wasn't great, but it's when you look at that trilogy as a whole, that is a very solid trilogy.
It's one of the better. It's one of the better Marvel trilogies.
Yeah,
I think.
I mean, it's again, I'm not a big fan of Iron Man's trilogy. I think that only Iron Man was good. This,
2 and 3 are much weaker.
Guardians blows Iron Man out of the water. It's not even comparable. as far as Captain America or Spider-Man, I think it's better than Spider-Man, and I think it's on par with Captain America. I think that Guardians trilogy is probably, and Thor's doesn't hold up at all.
No. The strength of Thor and Iron Man is more in the character than the stories.
Right. So, again, I watch this, and it gives me hope for Superman, right? I know there's a lot of negative feedback about it, and there's a lot of chatter, but when I watch Guardians 3, I'm like, he gets it. James Gunn gets it.
Yeah, he definitely does get it.
Yeah.
Even watching like Peacemaker and stuff, like I'm
exactly.
excited. I'm excited that there's another season coming out. Like I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. So and it had the necessary tone. It had the comedy, but the comedy isn't. It's not the forced comedy like we see. With some of these other Marvel movies where it doesn't. Yeah, it's like it's got, but it has the seriousness when it needs it, and even like the end, right, with him and Gamora, right, Star-Lord and Gamora, right. When she gives the we were probably a fun couple, right, and you're thinking, hey, maybe this, and then no, she goes off, right, and she's happy to be not a part of the Guardian. She's happy to be a Ravager, right? There is no romance.
Get the bittersweet ending,
right?
So you're shipping them to get back together, but it's like, hey, nope.
Yeah, it's like no, that your Gamora is dead,
right? Like you lost her in Endgame,
right? So it's like yes, a Gamora exists. But it's not now.
It's not her.
They now again. They could always change that down the road, and hopefully they don't. But
that's the thing that's why I fell in love with comic books as a kid. Is that there's not. Arguably, is it a happy ending? Sure. To a degree, right? I mean, like the good guys, like whatever.
Yeah.
Like you get that sort of superhero ending, but it has those elements of like. It doesn't work out. It's not a fairy tale. Like, it doesn't work out the way you want it to work out. Like, Gamora died.
Right. Yeah. And, it was time for this iteration of the Guardians to go their separate ways. Now we got a new Guardians group that they'll probably use going forward. And these other ones will come back. I mean, again, we're not going to see the end of them completely, but except for probably Batista. I think Batista has, he's gone. I think he's not coming back as Drax again.
I don't think he liked what they did with how they did Gunn. I think that really rubbed him the wrong way.
No, absolutely.
And he strikes me as one of those guys that's like very loyal.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, I thought, I know it was the only real hit they've had other than the Deadpool. And I don't, and to me, like I said, I haven't seen Deadpool and Wolverine, but Deadpool and Wolverine.
You haven't seen Deadpool and Wolverine?
No.
Holy shit.
But it's a nostalgia bait, right?
Yeah,
Guardians of the Galaxy is the only actual
Deadpool and Wolverine
hit.
Doesn't move anything.
No. Guardians was the only hit that Marvel had, and after watching it, it's like, yep. It's like, it is...
Well, Homecoming was in the same phase, right?
Well, if you look at Phase 4 and 5, I mean, that was in Phase 4, and this is Phase 5. So, I mean, again, it's if you want to call it the same, because it kind of is all together.
That era,
because it's
the
multiverse saga era, so it all kind of... But, again, even that with a lot of nostalgia bait, I'm saying that for Guardians of the Galaxy, to me, was... A different Marvel, like it was a completely different movie than anything else.
Yeah, it echoed kind of Marvel of the past.
Right. So, I was thoroughly enjoyed that movie. I thoroughly, enjoyed the Jester for way more than I probably should have. But what about you? What besides Snow White? What have you seen?
I caught one more. I caught Until Dawn.
Oh, okay. I think I've heard of this.
So that's that was actually a video game adaptation.
Okay.
Put out by Sony, or Screen Gems put it out. And what's weird about it is the game is generally well liked, right? Like from a technological standpoint, it's one of those games where decisions you make affect the story and things like that.
Okay.
They do a lot of butterfly effect stuff, and so technically it was pretty impressive for the time. And the story was entertaining. It was a decent horror film.
Okay.
But what they did with the movie was they incorporated elements of it, but kind of made it its own thing. And it was almost like they were doing too much.
Oh, okay.
So, spoilers for Until Dawn, the whole thing. So the game, basically, these guys, this group of people go up to a cabin because they lost one of their, the sister died, or they think whatever. I don't remember the exact details. She either killed herself or she had an accident or whatever. And initially they're hunted by this serial killer in like a sort of a clown kind of mask, right? That turns out to be fake. Okay. But then it ends up switching that they're actually monsters in the woods type of thing. So that's where the danger really comes from. So the first half of the game, you're like running away from this killer, and then you find out that's all a ruse. It's all fake. Like anybody that died during the killer stuff didn't really die, and blah blah blah. And then the second half of the game pivots, and that's when the Wendigos come in, and you're kind of dealing with all that. And what the movie did was so very similar premise. The sister goes missing, so they're going to look for her. And where it's different, and this is where it kind of lost me, is all of the monsters were real, and if they killed you, like if everybody died that night, it would reset, and you'd have to it would Groundhog Day it kind of, and you'd have to relive the night, and there might be different monsters, and so it got a little convoluted because they were trying to up, it started with the guy with the clown mask, and then it was a witch, and then it was the Wendigos kind of popped up, and then it was everything, and like, I'm sitting there going like, why didn't you just tell the fucking story of the game? Right. Like, it's obscure enough where a lot of people probably don't know what it is, and it's got a good enough story. Like, you're telling this very complicated fucking tale. The characters were all, sort of Gen Z, very likable, though. Like, they weren't super annoying or anything. Okay. The girl who was the main character in Hellraiser was in it.
All right.
And she's solid. Like, I hope she's in more stuff. I think she does decent. The kills were gory. Like, it had an element of fun to it, but it was just that thing where it's so confusing to me because you had a good story, and you just chose to tell like your own thing, which I get it. You want to do your own thing, but like it was worse.
Yeah.
So wouldn't recommend it. I mean, it's not super long. It's like an hour 44. I don't know that. I mean, if you're an Until Dawn fan, I wouldn't watch it. If you're just looking for kind of a unique horror, it's not even unique. I mean, how many fucking times have we seen, what was that one? Happy Death Day? Like that type of shit.
Right.
Like, so, it wasn't terrible. It wasn't great.
Yeah.
So, that's what I watched. What else you got for me?
So, speaking of that, I'm going to parlay that into this.
Yeah.
So we talk about the lore a lot, right?
We do, yeah.
And we talk about...
A lot of times the lore is sacred.
Right. And we talk about trying to stay true to it, right? Because, again, that's what you fell in love with, and that's what brought you to the table. That's what made, the popularity what it is, right?
Right.
So,
you can tell your own story,
right,
as long as it doesn't bastardize the lore.
Right. You can't shit on the lore. You can't bastardize.
The lore.
Right. So this brings me to this. Now, again, I've never played the game, and I've never watched the show, but The Last of Us, right?
Yeah.
So The Last of Us, the video game, the first one, was tremendously successful.
Yeah.
And The Last of Us Season 1 on HBO was tremendously successful.
Right.
Last of Us Season 2, the video game, was very, very unsuccessful.
So I'd put a caveat in that. It did very well financially.
Well, you know what I mean, though,
the game itself was very divisive.
Right.
So it split the audience. So it's very pretentious. what ended up happening was it split the fans in half, and either you could get on board with the character of Abby and you liked it, or you couldn't get on board with Abby, and if you couldn't get on board with Abby, then you didn't like the game.
Right.
So it split the fan base.
Right.
So as a creative, I like that because I think it challenges people, and whether you like it or you don't like it, at least it made you think about it.
Sure. But then, season 2 of The Last of Us was a failure, a big-time failure.
For different reasons, though.
Well, but here's the thing, right? But one of the things that I keep hearing is that a lot of the things they didn't like about the game, they didn't like about the show.
So the thing is this, right? Here's why, at least in my opinion, Last of Us Season 2 failed. Because Last of Us 2, the game, split the fan base. Right? But it was a good enough quality of a game that if you could get behind Abby, right? Right. You're gonna like the game. I mean, it got nominated for Game of the Year and everything. Sure. Like it wasn't. It's not a nothing game.
No.
But where the show failed is you're already running very dangerous ground because you already have source material that splits the fan base. Right. So either you have to follow that to a T and just understand that you're going to lose half of the audience because you lost half of the audience in the game. But what they ended up doing was Bella Ramsey is a terrible choice for Ellie.
Terrible.
And the way she's playing Ellie is awful because she plays her like a little kid. And in the game, she doesn't act like that. Right? So at least the themes of revenge and sort of this, the hate can turn you into a machine were there, and they're not there in the show. So what you've done is you've taken something that has source material that's already divisive, and then you've brought into it someone that can't shoulder the series.
Right. But that goes to my point, though, right? You already knew. So this is where I say, is this a situation where maybe sticking to the lore was the mistake? Because you already knew from different from like The Witcher, right? When we talk about The Witcher, which we talk a lot about, right? The Witcher didn't lose the games didn't lose the fans, or the books didn't lose the fans.
Well, I think the games are a great case study in this because the games are separate from the books, right?
Right.
And the books have been around. Like, people gravitated towards the books.
Right. But what I'm saying is, if you followed the lore in The Witcher, you'd have been golden. You would not be in the situation you're in.
Oh, you're talking about with the show.
Right.
Yeah.
Because of the show.
If you had just stayed with the lore, you would have been fine.
But in this case, you already knew there was a very big problem with the lore going into this.
I think the only way it could have worked, if you were going to stick with the lore, if you're going to take lore that is divisive like that, right? The only way it could have worked is if you had recast Ellie and cast Abby correctly. And I don't think that they casted either one of them correctly, because if those girls are going to shoulder the story going forward, because spoilers, like, Joel's gone by episode 2, right? So it, where you don't have Joel shouldering a lot of the weight like he did in season 1, you're so reliant on a likable, mature Ellie, and you don't get that with Bella Ramsey. You just don't. And so if you're going to walk that line, I'm not saying that you couldn't have done it. It still would have been divisive, right? But it probably would have been more successful because the game was successful enough, even with the fan split, that you could have, kept it going. But but you can't take dangerous lore like that, and then on top of that, throw unlikable characters that are supposed to shoulder that dangerous lore.
And that's what I'm saying. So I think about it,
So
and
I think if either you changed it
or you like maybe you didn't have to kill Joel. Right. I mean, again, you could have made the choice to do something different, right? You could have but
then at that point you're not telling the story, right?
Right, but that's my point, right? If you know that it's already divisive, right? And that's a part of it, right? But if you know that the second game was divisive, then maybe this was a time where you should have make a change that might have worked. Because again, you got the same result on the show, and maybe for different reasons, but at the end of the day, you still lost 50% of your audience.
So if it was me, right, and I wanted to stick with the lore, because I'm not opposed to them killing off Joel.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying.
I think the way that the game is structured, and I think this is a fault of the game too, is that what they were trying to do was they were trying to make you angry at Abby and her group, and then you're going to go on a killing spree, and then, basically there's a scene where you kill a pregnant woman, right? And that's supposed to make you go, wait a minute, this doesn't feel good anymore. Like, I don't feel like I'm doing the right thing anymore. And then there's a hard stop. You go back in time and have to kind of relive Abby's perspective, right? Which is where a lot of the fans were like, this is fucking ridiculous, right?
Right.
What they should have done was they could have introduced us to Abby up front, kind of shown us her life and everything, and got us on board with her, gotten the audience to like her, and then maybe by the end of the season you kill Joel, and then finish, get your season 3 to kind of finish out the game.
Right.
But they went, by episode 2 killing Joel, and then the other problem is I think Bella did fine in season 1 as Ellie. I think she did fine. I mean, she doesn't really look like her, but I can get over that.
Sure.
Right? I don't think she does a good job as Ellie in season 2. I think they should have recast someone a little bit older.
A big complaint. Her performance overall was a gigantic complaint.
Looks aside, like, who cares about looks? She's acting like a perfect example is when Ellie finds out Dina's pregnant in the game, right? She's pissed. She's like, you're a fucking liability to me. Now, you came here pregnant. Like, I'm going to go kill people.
Right.
And in the show,
you got the most cringe line ever.
I'm going to be your dad.
Yeah, that's you couldn't have written a worse line in all of TV.
But what you're doing is you're taking where the lore is such a knife edge anyway. You're taking Ellie's character, which is all I care about is revenge. All I'm here to do is take out Abby and her crew. And what keeps reinforcing those things in the game is that she looks at Dina like a liability. You're pregnant. You came here pregnant. How fucking dare you? You're a liability to me. And in the show, it's like Ellie could give a fuck about Joel.
Right. Yeah. It's one of those things where I look at it and say, would knowing, because what happened is exactly happened. I mean, you had that split, and even if financially the second game did well, it's not revered by the majority of the fan base.
Well, it's split. It's divisive.
And so,
half your fan base fell off.
And this is what happened here.
Yeah, but then you lost half. So you lost half right after Joel, right?
Right.
And then when Ellie starts saying stupid shit like that and stops being Ellie on the games, you lose half of the half that you kept.
Yeah. I'm just wondering if knowing what happened in the game was this because again, we keep on talking about sticking to the lore. The lore is the most important.
But they didn't stick to the lore.
Not completely. But I'm just saying that it just seems that a lot of problematic elements from the second game showed up in the second season, and I'm just saying, like, should you have rethought what you put on, because you knew what happened in the game as far as the fan base goes, and was this one of those rare times where the lore maybe wasn't your friend and you maybe had to think about changing it? I think it's hard
to say. I think it's hard to say.
And that's why I'm saying is, because we typically say no. We typically say no, stick to the lore, because, again, that's what brought you to the table. That's what is popular. That's what your fan base wants. But in this case, this isn't what your whole fan base wants. So
I think you stick to the lore. Right? I think you do. But I think what the show would have given you the opportunity to do, which you didn't take, was fix a lot of the problematic elements of it. So a lot of people were upset that kind of Abby got the jump on Joel and stuff like that. Maybe you change that around a little bit to make it more of a situation where, it was out of Joel's control instead of him just kind of getting jumped up on, right?
Right.
So I think you stick to the story beats, but maybe you fix, like, again, they did that episode in season 1 with Bill, right, which is one of the best episodes of that show, and that's not in the game.
Right.
So I think you can add things to it. I think you keep the skeleton of the lore, but again, you make some changes that make it, a little more powerful or palatable, for what's happening. And I think instead of doing that, they stuck to the lore and then bastardized the lore with the fact that they've changed Ellie's character so drastically that it doesn't work with the established lore that they're going after. Because you can't, the whole themes of that are just, revenge and, of the vicious cycle that it creates or whatever. And you're not seeing that with Ellie. She's not this machine that's hell-bent on, like, fuck everything until I can get revenge for Joel.
Right.
So I think the smart play would have been, okay, this is the way the story goes. Here are the complaints that people are having. They're mad that so-and-so jumped, she got the advantage. Joel wouldn't have let his guard down, things like that. Fix that. You have the opportunity to fix that. So maybe you fix that.
Right.
Without changing the lore. Like, maybe, maybe there is something going on where he, his attention is somewhere else, and that's how she gets the drop on him.
Yep.
You fix that, but I don't think you change the lore, because whether you like it or not, that's what happened.
Right. And it harkens me back to The Walking Dead, right? So, when in the comic where Abraham, right? You know who I'm talking about, the redhead, right? In the comic, he's the one that got shot through the eye with an arrow, and in the TV show it was Dr. Denise, and Robert Kirkman decided, I'm going to give Abraham a better death, and that's going to be at the hands of Negan, prior, as well as Glenn, which that one occurred. So it made me think, like, you had an opportunity to tweak it, not change the lore, but tweak it.
At the end of the day, Abraham still dies.
Right.
It's just that they gave him a better death in the show.
Like, Kirkman thought about it and said, you know what,
so
he still needs to die, but I could do a better death. Right. So I'm going to tweak it, but it still remains within the lore.
But that's a little trickier because Kirkman's the creator, so, like,
Right, but my point is, I think that this should have been one of those same.
I agree.
Where you looked at the lore and said, "Okay,
we have to tweak some stuff. It's
problematic. We got to tweak some of it. We got to hold true to the majority of it, even if not everybody's on board.
Right,
we're still let's change some elements.
The thing is that killing Joel, no matter how you do it, right? No matter how you do it, you're going to lose some people. That's just how it is. You're just going to.
But without that changes
the story completely.
Right. Exactly.
So I agree with you. I think we got there. It's just that I think they had an opportunity to kind of go sort of that Walking Dead, and I really had high hopes for them because I thought what they added in season 1 really added to the story versus what they gave you in the game. And I was like, okay, so they understand sort of what you can fuck with and what you can't fuck with. But then in season 2, it's just like, but Ellie's character is not the character from the game.
Right.
So you know, you had the opportunity to maybe tweak Joel's death to make it more palatable for the people that didn't like it in the game. You didn't do that. And then you changed Ellie's character to be an annoying little girl.
Right.
Because that's how she comes across. You know, there's not a lot of conflict in her like there was in the game. In the game, you know, she's a killing machine, and it doesn't matter what her relations are with other people. Her purpose is to take revenge on Joel's death.
Right.
And in this, it's just like, I'm going to be a dad.
Right.
Like, as soon as that happened, I was out. I was out.
And everybody pretty much was.
Right.
Because even though you lost 50% of your audience, I think you're going to lose more going forward.
That's what I'm saying is, like, you know, I'm very much, like, I think the Part 2 has its own problems, you know, and again, you could have fixed that. You could have tweaked some things to make it more palatable. I think ultimately, though, like, you know, the story gets there in the game. I think it gets there. I mean, you know, is it the deepest, most original thing ever? No. But it's, I think if you can take the ride, it's decent enough, you know? But it's just, when they did such a change to Ellie's character, and even Abby's character, like, the thing is, in the game, Abby's character is a muscle maniac because she's so hell-bent on revenge for her father that she's turned her body into a killing machine.
Right.
And you don't get that in the show.
Right.
So it's like, there's such a nuance to why fans are saying, like, oh, I want my characters to look how they look. It's like, well, in this case, the reason she looks like that is because she has a one-track mind, and that is revenge, and she's turning her body into a killing machine.
Right, and that matters.
Right,
that matters.
Because it does matter
to the context of the story.
It changes who the characters are.
Right.
And so I think you lose that in the show, and I think, you know, they'll get their season 3, but I don't think it'll go further than that.
No, nor do I, because I don't think you're going to have. I think you're going to have an even smaller audience for season 3 than you did for season 2.
People tuned out.
Yeah, they absolutely tuned out. So it made me think, you know what I mean? Like, it made me think after that happened and what the results were. Or, you know, this was, you know, when we're talking about lore, you know, sometimes you do have to tweak it to
there's a finesse.
Fix the issues that you know exist.
Right. There's definitely a finesse to what, you know, again, it's just one of those things where you can add, you can't really take away that much.
Right.
You know, you can tweak a little bit, but it's really and you know, not to be sympathetic for a lot of these lore bastardizers, but like it is a tightrope walk. Like, it's not an easy thing to do.
Sure.
But I think the mentality when making these properties going forward should be, okay, can we add anything or tweak anything to make it better?
Right.
Versus, well, fuck the lore, we're just going to tell our own story.
Exactly.
And if the fans don't like it, fuck them.
Right.
So I think going forward, you know, again, Last of Us Season 1, very well done. They made some tweaks that added to the game story. I think Last of Us Season 2 is just par for the course, you know, bullshit. Really.
Right. And I think that, you know, the Last of Us should be something that is looked at by these creators to say, okay, this is, you know, we have to be cognizant of this. We have to stick to the lore because that's what the fans wanted, but we also have to make certain we can tell some things that are our own. We have to bulk it up some because there might not be enough material there for the original material,
right?
So we can add to it.
Especially when like adapting games, right? Because it's much harder to adapt a game because again, Last of Us is maybe 14, 18-hour game, 20-hour game, and you're only getting 8 hours,
right,
to tell a story. So
yeah. So, it's just one of those things where I think that, it's interesting to look at what happened in kind of a case study in, sometimes you have to look at what the lore is and maybe, make the necessary adjustments to tweak it somewhere. It may not be as divisive as the lore is.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good point.
Yeah.
But, we'll have to see. I mean, right now, as far as properties go, there's not a whole lot coming out that I'm like, oh, yeah, this looks good.
No.
I mean, we got the trailer for the new Frankenstein.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be good.
Yeah, it looks pretty good.
But but that's a Netflix thing, which what I mean, it's not going to be in theaters, so you're not going to see what that could do financially.
No, they're pretty tight with their numbers too.
But the other thing I wanted to talk to you about, and this goes back to to Marvel, right? So there's a rumor, and I'll say it's a rumor because again, and we're not in the room, so we don't know. But there's a rumor that Iger and Feige are very opposite sides right now when it comes to Marvel, and they're having an internal battle as to the direction.
Well, does Feige want to stay the course?
So Feige wants to stay the course, and you can see, right? Feige is MCU, message, social issues, social justice. I'm not changing, right? And Fantastic Four is a prime example of that.
Yeah, I heard it got booed.
Yeah, because, they said the ending is, again, the girls save everything.
Silver Surfer and Sue Storm save the day.
Everybody else is a piece of shit. They're the best.
Right.
Girl power all the way. Right? And that's Feige. He wants that continuously. And this is in relation more so to the X-Men, right? Because this is really where the battle lies. And Iger, and for selfish reasons, right?
Well, for business reasons.
Well, but also selfish reasons, because Iger is gone at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Right? And if he goes out with nothing but failures, that's going to tarnish his legacy, which is all he cares about. So Feige Iger cannot afford Marvel to not be massive hits for Iger on the way out. So Iger wants Avenger-level movies, especially when it pertains to X-Men, right? Feige wants it to be grounded. He wants it to be, tackling social issues, and Iger wants it to be Avengers-level, big explosions, big presentation.
Yeah, but I mean, X-Men has always tackled social issues.
No, they have, and certainly you can do that, but Feige wants it to be current day.
Right, but that's not what X-Men was tackling.
And
it was just us versus them. And it wasn't men versus women. It was humans versus mutants.
No, and again, Feige wants to do the, hey, this is an allegory for the civil rights movement. This is Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. And even though,
that's what a lot of it was.
Well, but Stan Lee has come out and said it was never that, right? Stan Lee has said, and it's on many videos, he never created it to be that. Years later, a comic book creator did a run where he turned it into that, but the X-Men were never created to be that.
The haves versus the have-nots.
Sure,
and
it's
always
right.
been, about that sort of injustice. Whether you can assign whatever
right.
You want to, whether it's black versus white or whatever. There was always just that struggle between the downtrodden and the oppressor, though.
Yeah, but the thing is, Iger's looking at it like, hey, you've been, your way has failed numerous times now. We, as much as I agree with you on all the social issues, we're on the same side of the fence for all that. Financially, it's ruining us. We have to make change. And Feige is like, no, I want to keep doing the MCU. And so there's a real battle going on, and this, and one of the things that now pop up is that he's circling Cynthia Erivo to play Storm, right? Would you have a problem with that?
No,
I do, because Storm can't be 20 pounds. And,
I mean, she'd have to
5'2".
She'd have to. Yeah, you're right. She's kind of tiny for it.
Storm can't be. She can't play Storm. And so going back to the way we're talking about looks,
I guess in theory I don't have a problem with it, but physicality, I don't think she has.
She can't play Storm.
No, I don't think so.
It would be an abomination for her to play Storm. I forgot
she was tiny.
Right. So you have to have Storm. Storm is one of the most important characters for you to make X-Men successful.
I think she has the acting chops to do it.
See, I don't. Because I don't think she's a good actress.
No,
I know you and I are different on that.
Yeah, we split on that.
I don't like her. I don't.
You didn't like her
in anything.
You didn't like her in Outsiders?
No, no.
Really?
I didn't really care for her in anything, and I don't like her. I don't like her. Outside of her acting, I don't like her activism. I don't like her, the way she conducts herself. I don't like her narcissism. I don't like that she, thinks that she's better than everybody. I don't like her as a person. I'm not crazy about her acting. I mean, she was okay in The Outsiders, but I don't think she was great. I think she was probably the weakest part of it. But again, when we're talking about her though in that role, that is where the Feige Iger comes into play, because
Iger doesn't want her, Feige does.
Well, and I'm not even saying that, right? What I'm saying, because I don't know necessarily that Iger doesn't. But when you cast somebody like her, you're doing it for a specific reason, not because that's the best choice for the role. Because in essence, it's one of the worst choices for the role.
I think physically she doesn't really embody Storm. She is very tiny. She's very skinny. She's very tiny, and I don't think she might. I think she could probably pull it off acting wise, but I think the physicality does matter. Because Storm is supposed to be imposing.
Right. So, this is where I think that there's problems, because again, if you're hiring that actress for a reason, that's not saying, because just like you talked about with Ellie in The Last of Us, right? It doesn't always come down to the way you look, but part of what made Marvel so successful at the beginning is you nailed the actors to the role. Like, it was the embodiment. When you look at Chris Hemsworth, or you look at Chris Evans, or you look at Robert Downey Jr., it's like you nailed it. You nailed their appearances. That's as close as you could come. Now you're starting to just, I don't care, I'm just going to put the activist that politically aligns with me in the role, regardless of whether they look the way they're supposed to look, and whether they'll be accepted by the fans. And that's where it becomes problematic for me, because now we're not doing justice to the characters. We're just trying to reinforce a certain way you want the shows to be, and this becomes a real issue, because again, you look at it, Charlie Cox, right, looked a good part in Daredevil. Daredevil was a massive flop. Daredevil Born Again is one of the biggest, if not the biggest flop ever on Disney Plus for Marvel. They just had where out of 100 shows, it came in 92nd out of 100. That's how poorly. Agatha All Along came in 46. That's how bad Daredevil is, because you cared more about your message. You only cared about your activism. You only cared about making sure you got the girl bosses. And Fantastic Four, from everything that I'm hearing, is the exact same thing. I think you did a terrible casting job. I think Pedro Pascal couldn't be any worse.
There's a lot of Pedro Pascal fatigue now.
I don't think that the Vanessa Kirby looks good as Sue Storm.
No, neither do I.
And I don't think that the guy who's playing Johnny Storm, don't think there's anything there either. The only thing that is Thing, who actually looks good. Other than that, sounds terrible, looks good. I think the casting is awful. And I think, again, you're making your choices based upon a criteria that has nothing to do with being the best for the role. Well, and I think that's where Iger and him are starting to clash.
I think the problem becomes, too, is, like, if I don't know if it's true or not, but if test audiences are booing, like, at this point, what are we doing?
Well, again, this movie comes out next month.
Yeah.
And you're reshooting endings as we speak, a month before the movie comes out, because of how poorly it's being received by. And now this wasn't Disney employees. You had fans do it this time. You actually had actual fans come in for these test screenings. So you're getting a real, hey, this sucks. Like, this is awful.
I think the problem is they have to just, really take a look at themselves and be like, okay, it's not working, because it's not.
Right. But, but again, we're just going to keep on going down the same path, and there's nothing to say right now that anything, we're told it was going to change, but there's nothing that is coming out that we're seeing. Like, again, we got Ironheart, we got Wonder Man. All of this is, again, which is a race swapped character. Not that I have a big deal, because who the fuck is Wonder Man? Like, no one gives a shit.
Yeah,
but again,
you have a little more freedom with the lower tiers.
But again, what do you need Wonder Man for anyway? Like, why do you need to put that out?
They're just a corporation, and the the continuity in the story doesn't matter.
Right.
The message and the
right.
But what's crazy to me is that, like, even operating under corporations are creatively bankrupt or whatever. They want to make money, and these things aren't making money. So I just don't understand. I don't understand how it's just weird to me that there's always been this sort of weird balance between business and creative, right? Mm-hmm. Creative can't exist without business, and business can't, at least in this line of work, can't really exist without creative, right? There's that weird sort of relationship, and I thought the idea was that they kind of kept each other in check, and it just doesn't seem like they're doing that anymore.
No. And I think this is what I think Iger's looking at it, and again saying, look, I agree with the message, but it's a financial dead end. We have to start doing things that generate money, even if we don't necessarily think that this is what we want. We wanted to get past hey, the male gaze or the big explosions or whatever the case might be, the toxic masculinity. Those movies are making money, our movies are not. So I'm saying that we have to start making those movies again. And Feige's like, nope, I'm staying the course. I'm not changing because you want to make money.
Well,
my message is more important. Right. And that's the point. It's like, why is this guy still employed? Like, if you're not going to change to, because you had a big financial loss with Captain America 4. And I don't care how many people say the Thunderbolts is a good movie. It's a over $100 million loss. It's out of theaters now. You know what it is, and you can say it's a good movie. But again, if no one goes to see it, if a very small portion of the fan base said it was good, who cares? Again, I made this point online. What do Feige and Iger are not, they go by box office. Rotten Tomatoes scores are not what they base these things off of. So it doesn't matter if a few fans or a few critics thought this was a great movie. People didn't go see it. It's $100 million plus loss. It's a failure. And that's 2 failures in a row. And now you have people booing the Fantastic Four, saying this movie sucks. You're reshooting it with a month to go before the thing comes out. You have the potential of being another gigantic failure. And at what point do you say, okay, it's not worth the message anymore?
I just think the problem becomes, like, you know, Iger is your boss.
Right.
Right? And if he's telling you to change the direction and you're telling him no, you can tell him no, but then he's in his right to fire you.
Right.
And so I'm sitting there going, like, if I'm Kevin Feige and I'm looking at sort of my legacy, like, does your legacy not matter? Because, like, you were hot shit up through Endgame, and now I look at what you've produced after that, and, like, your legacy is tarnished.
Right. I mean, you think about Deadpool and Wolverine, Kevin Feige had almost virtually nothing to do with it.
He didn't even want it made.
No. So take that out of the equation, right? So since then, you had Agatha All Along, which is a massive flop. You've had Daredevil Born Again, which is a massive flop. Captain America 4, massive flop. Thunderbolts, massive flop. And now you've got Ironheart ready to go. And, you know, whatever happens with the Fantastic Four.
Ironheart's getting a ghost release, though.
So it's like, at what point, even if you're Feige, even if the message and the girl boss thing is so important to you and you have to put this out, at what point do you say, as a boss and as a creative, which I don't believe he is, but he thinks he is, at what point do you say, I've got to start doing something that has mass appeal, as opposed to continuing to put out things that just satisfy me at massive loss to the company that pays me a very hefty salary? At what point do I reimburse them with some winners? This is what's happening, like with the animation side of things, right? The animation side of things, they have gone in there and they've started delaying movies to pull out all of the problematic, what would be problematic to the masses, which is all the message and the trans stuff and all that. Now, again, some of them are hits, some of them are not, but they're saying, we know this is not going to go over well to the masses. We have to take it out, even if we believe in it, and even if we want it in there, financially we can't afford to do it because we know what the end results are. So we've got to pull it, and we've got to then take our chances that we've made a good movie. Feige is the only one, and Kathleen Kennedy as well, that are unwilling to make those changes because they just feel that what they believe is more important than appealing to the massive fan base for these IPs. And that just absolutely blows my mind.
Yeah, I mean, it's really bizarre. I got one more for you, and then we'll call it. So they announced Legend of Zelda movie.
Oh, yeah.
And they're talking about... and again, I don't know how much validity there is to any of it, but they're talking about Hunter Schafer playing Zelda.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on that?
No.
Why?
Because if we're going to protect women in the movies and we want women to have roles, we can't take them away. We can't take them away for a man. That's a man. Regardless of whether they are trans, it is a man. This is a woman's role. We cannot take women's roles away from women when we're trying to make sure that women get as many roles as we can. We can't be hypocritical at this point. We can't say because it's a trans person that trumps being a woman, even though we're trying to take. So we're sitting there saying, hey, women can take men's roles. We're okay with that. We want more women's roles. And then a woman's role comes out. We can't then say it's okay that a man takes it because that man identifies as a woman. We can't. We can't have it both ways.
I don't think we can have it both ways either. But honestly, as far as I'm concerned, looks just like Zelda. I think
plenty of people that can look just like Zelda.
I mean, I got no issue with it. That being said, I don't think it would happen in a million years because it's Nintendo and they are going to go very safe with it. But as far as I'm concerned, I think they want to hire Hunter Schafer as Zelda. I say go for it.
See, I say absolutely not. You can't be pushing that it's okay to take roles away from men to give to women, and then do this. You can't do that and then cry wolf on the other side. You can't.
Well, that's I guess that depends on that. If she identifies as a woman, she's a woman, right?
But she's not. She's not. I don't care what you identify as. You are a man. This is a woman's role. You can't just take a woman's role and give it to a man and then be pissed off if men get men roles that aren't going to women.
I disagree. I think that you can't be pissed off if she gets the role because she's a woman. Period. So it's a woman taking a woman's role.
Yeah, see, I don't agree with that, though.
If you start going down the route of, well, she's really a man taking a woman's role, well, then we're going down this route of kind of, well, are trans women not women? So,
well, they can identify as women, but they're not women. I mean, they're not women. They identify as women, but this is a woman's role.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, I mean,
and again, we can have differences of opinion on it, but
it's not.
But my thing is, I can line up 100 women that can look like Zelda.
Sure, and again, I don't actually know the validity of her being cast. I think it would be insane because I don't think Nintendo would ever be that risky because they always play it very safe.
Yeah, and if they did it and it flops miserably and that's the reason why, then you deserve it. You deserve every bit of that.
But if it flops miserably but she nails the role, then that's fucked up. No,
because again, you're just like we talked about the other a while ago about Snape with the new Harry Potter, right? You're inviting divisiveness and controversy,
right.
So you are going to get people that are not going to do it for that reason.
The reason I brought it up is because I think it's more nuanced than the Snape thing, but it's definitely the same tiger, right?
Sure.
Is that she looks the part.
Sure.
If she can play the part of Zelda, then you have a person that looks like Zelda to a T, who can play the part of Zelda to a T, but there is still controversy tied with her versus Snape, who doesn't look accurate to book Snape.
Sure.
Maybe can act the part of it, but doesn't look the part of it. Right. And so that's where the controversy is tied to that.
But you are
inviting controversy.
Right, you are inviting controversy, and there are going to be people that will boycott the movie for the casting. It is going to happen. It's
I don't disagree.
Inevitable.
I don't disagree. I just, I was thinking about it the other day, and I was just like, I don't think it really matters as long as she looks the part and plays the role right. But again, I don't think you're wrong. I think that, hiring Hunter would invite controversy, and there, for better or worse, you would lose, audience over that. And at the end of the day, it's a business, so.
And, and again, you're putting this person is going to be, maligned, right? And again, whether she deserves it or not, it's going to happen.
Right. I think you're right there. I agree with you there. Whether it's justified or not, there's going to be conversations and boycotts and things of that nature.
Yeah. So again, you're setting up yourself for a failure that you don't need to do just for the sake of controversy. Like I said, yes. Does she look it? Sure. This again, there could be hundreds of people that can look the role that would be acceptable. It's just, why are we courting controversy for the sake of it? And then, again, it's another one of these where if it doesn't work, it's going to be the fans' fault. It's going to be bigots, racist, homophobes,
I think
all the same talking points.
That to me is where it gets more complicated, because I think that if you were to cast her, she looks and plays the part exactly right, and the fans don't like it just because she's a trans woman, then I think that's on the fans. I put that on the fans.
Sure, but there's going to be a lot of that.
Then that's fucked up, and shame on the fans for that.
Right, but again,
but that's what I'm saying. But
you put yourself in the position for that to happen when you didn't need to.
But that's the danger of this whole situation that we're in, is that I can say I care about the lore. I care about the way things need to look and feel, need to be accurate to what I'm buying into. And if Hunter Schafer got on the screen, looked the part, played the part right, and is a trans woman, to stick to the way I feel about things, I got to be good with that, because it's lore accurate, regardless of how I feel politically or controversial or whatever. If the character looks and feels right, it doesn't matter. That's the point. And so if we start doing these things where it's like, well, you've invited controversy, it's a trans woman, and that's why the movie failed, you're just opening that door for Disney to do what they've been doing for the past 5 or 6 years, where maybe it's a minority or a trans person that just sucks at what they're doing, and then are hiding behind the minority status to protect them, versus a trans person that can act, looks accurate, can portray the character, and then we're saying, well, the movie fails because it's a trans woman. To me, that's dangerous, because then it gives justification for Disney and all that other bullshit. A lot of the stuff that they were putting out and blaming on the fans was bad because it was bad. It wasn't bad because it was black or trans or LGBTQ written or any of that shit. It was bad because whoever was doing that in that group was bad. So there is that nuance of just, if they said, well, Zelda's going to be black now, I'd be like, no, that's fucking stupid. Zelda's not black in the games. Like, why would you make that change for no reason other than controversy? Right? If Hunter Schafer plays Zelda as a woman, and they make no mention that Zelda's trans or anything like that, which I couldn't imagine they would, but if they play it off as that's a woman, I got no issue with that, because it's hypocritical for me to say what I care about is sticking to the lore, making sure that we're accurate with the lore, and then because they hire a trans person who plays it as a woman, who looks accurate and plays the part, then I say, well, I don't like it because it's a trans person. That to me is where it gets dangerous, because then it gives these other companies that have brought in minorities and trans that have done shitty jobs validity to their argument that it is just a toxic fan base and this stuff is actually good and you've been wrong all along, type of thing.
Yeah, I just think that we live in a vacuum. What you're saying is accurate.
I don't disagree with what you're saying. I know that I'm taking the moral high ground on this particular issue. I just think that the nuance of it to me is just more important to get out there. So I don't disagree with what you're saying as far as if you hire Hunter Schafer, you're inviting controversy in for the sake of controversy. I don't disagree with you there, because I think we've seen how this stuff plays out, and for better or worse, that's how it plays out. My point is, at least as an individual, if I'm going to be a champion of the lore and a champion of what I think is how we should be telling these stories and stuff, it's hypocritical of me to say, and again, if they, at any point in the movie, if they allude to her being trans, I'm going to have an issue with that because she's not trans in the fucking game.
But the thing is, we don't know. Again, the movie's not made, so we can't say that it's true to the lore because again, anybody can look. Anybody
I'm
can
going
look
down
the
a
part.
hypothetical road of just that. If she were to get hired and played it to a T, right?
Sure.
Giving her the benefit of the doubt and saying like she played it right.
I think there are going to be people that would be okay with it. I think they could get past it, but I don't. But I think there's a lot of people that won't, and I think that you're just, opening up that controversy out of the gate and putting your movie in jeopardy because of it is a bad idea.
I don't disagree with you, but I think these are the conversations that we should be having as opposed to, oh, you didn't like Willow because you're a bigot.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like this, something like this, where you could potentially have someone that looks accurate to the role and can play the part accurately, but there is that level of controversy because she is a trans woman versus, well, you didn't like Willow because you were a bigot. And it's like, no, Willow was bad because you fucking wrote a garbage.
Right. Yeah, it's got to be got to be deep. Though? Right. That's surface level. The Willow thing is surface level. Like you can't, like there is no depth of thought in the criticism of saying, "Oh, you don't like it because you're a bigot." Like that, there is no depth of thought for people when they say that because it's like, no, come on. Like, did you watch the fucking show? Like,
right,
you can't say this is
it's more nuanced, right?
It's very more depth. It's very more detail. It's something that's you have to then start really looking at.
There hasn't really been an opportunity to have that argument up until this point, right? Is there hasn't been a situation where we've had either a minority or a trans person take a role, nail the role, and then have pushback from the fan base, right? So we haven't had that situation yet. And not to say that Hunter Schafer would nail the role. I mean, there's no guarantee.
Right, we don't know. I don't know who this person is.
There's no guarantee that she would or wouldn't, right?
Right.
But my point is that we're gonna get to that crossroad at some point where they do hire, a controversial actor that nails it,
right?
And then we have to start talking about.
I think you have, but again, if it fails,
right?
If it fails, and a lot of the feedback on that is because of who you hired. Okay, you can't just surface level say you're a bigot, you're a homophobe. No, it has to go deep. It has to go to a deeper conversation. But then we also have to start looking at, okay, if she does get the role and nails it, and it's successful, now we've got to start looking at, okay, we have to then look at this as a viable option going forward, and we got to be good with it. We have to accept it now.
I think what it ends up doing, and I just don't think there's been that moment yet, right? Is what it ends up doing is it will do more for the conversation than Disney has tried to do with all of the billions of dollars they've spent trying to push the message.
Right.
The true way to nail this is, and again, it's a risk for a studio to do this, right?
Right.
But this is the risk that they should be taking. You don't have to bake it into the story. You don't have to bake message into the story. But if you hire a controversial, like if they hire this Snape, right, and Harry Potter fucking blows it out of the water, and now everybody goes, well, this is Snape now.
Sure.
There you go.
Yeah.
Now you have to start having that conversation where it's like, okay, this works.
Right, and I think, again, you do have to look at it. And again, I going back to my original point of, yes, this is biologically a male who identifies as a woman. However, you're going to have to start looking at, it's not a woman usurping a man in a man's role, which is what Disney loves to do.
Right.
This is you know, if she wants to be looked at as a woman, right, and this is a woman's role, we've got to start looking at that a little bit deeper and say, okay, we know you're not a biological woman. However, you know, we're not trying to take a man's role now and give it to a biological man who identifies as a woman, which now still is a woman getting a man's role, right? This is a woman who identifies as a woman getting a woman's role.
Right.
That's a different street that we have to travel down at some point, and we have to. At some point, we have to travel down.
But we're not going to travel down the street until it happens and it works, right? So basically, what's going to keep happening is you're going to hire either LGBTQ plus writers, producers, directors, actors that are subpar. The fans aren't going to like it, and then you're going to put it all on the fans, right? The moment that you hire someone from a minority community, whatever it is, whether it's African, he's British, right? So whether it's Black Snape or you know, trans Zelda, whatever it is that actually hits, right? Then the conversation starts.
Right.
But it doesn't start until you actually, and it's not about baking it into the story. It's you hired that's where I think Disney misses the mark with this, is that the conversation should be had outside of the theater, not in the theater. Right. So if you hire a trans woman to play Zelda and she knocks it out of the park and the movie's great, right? You know, regardless of how you feel politically, if it worked for you, then it works.
Right.
And you just have to get right with that.
But the thing you cannot do at all is deviate from the fact that this is a woman.
No, I agree.
Like, you can't. No. If you do that, it's over.
But that's the nuance of it, right? Is instead of being so obtuse and baking messages in and beating audiences over the head with all of this bullshit, you have to be nuanced in the way that you introduce these ideas. And that, I think, that is the best way. So again, I don't know if Snape is going to. I mean, they put the kids out, right, for Harry Potter. The kids all look
that looks good.
Right. So the thing is that if Harry Potter is a huge success, right, and Snape is a part of that, right, and no one has anything bad to say about Snape, then you have to start asking that question and going like, all right, it wasn't book accurate, but it worked.
Well, but the thing is, it's only going to work if they play the character to the way the character is supposed to be played.
No, I totally agree.
And the other pieces aren't now added in to be a piece of this lore now.
I agree. And that's the nuance of it, is that if you want to do a controversial hire, right, go for it. But understand that if you're going to do that, they better be the right person for the job. Because the only way you're going to actually start the conversation, because the conversation hasn't started.
Right.
It's just you've been releasing slop. The fans don't like it, and then you blame the fans by calling them, you know, an ism or an obia or something.
I mean, if you hire her, there cannot be a mention of LGBTQ. There cannot be a mention of trans.
It's Princess Zelda.
In the story. I mean.
And then what you get to do is, if it works, right? If it works, and I'm not saying that it would, but if it does work, you get to have the conversation outside of the theater.
Right, but then you have to acknowledge what made it work. And what made it work is
you hired an actor that looks like the part and played the part right.
Right.
And regardless of what's between her legs.
Right. And just like with Black Snape, if that does not become a talking point, if nothing alters the character, and you have to add in the fact, he's oppressed because of the color of his skin and that's why he was picked on, if it's played to the T,
right,
and it works and it becomes a big success, Now we have conversations of what worked. It's not just
but those are the conversations,
diversity for diversity's sake.
But those are the conversations that we want to have anyway.
We have to have them.
Right. Those are
but we're not having them because we're adding in the other things to water down what's going on.
You're overcorrecting, and as a result of it, a lot of the stuff that has come out over the last almost 10 years has been shit.
Right.
And so the thing of it is that, at least from my perspective, I'm not opposed to having these conversations, but you have to, the only way you can start the conversation is if you hire a controversial hire and they nail it, and it hasn't happened yet.
Right. And again, this, all of this isn't going away. We need to start embracing.
Right.
To a degree, we have to start embracing what's going on, because again,
tell me I'm wrong on that though, right? They hire a trans Zelda that they hire a trans woman to play Zelda, right? They don't make any mention of the fact that she's LGBTQ or trans. It's just Princess Zelda, right? She nails it. She goes on the circuit. They're asking her questions like, how does it feel? Well, I'm Zelda. Like, that's it. I just embodied Zelda. Like, right? You can't say anything's wrong with that. You know what I mean?
No, but if your sexual identity is all that you talk about and not the character,
right, that's the thing.
Then it's going to fail.
Right, but that's the thing, is that if you want to normalize these things, right, which I'm not saying we shouldn't, but the only way to normalize them is to fucking normalize them, right? And what you're doing is abnormal. Like talking about your sexual preferences and things like that, like, we don't do that shit.
No, the thing is, it's like, what is it like to be a trans woman playing Zelda?
Her that.
The answer should be, I'm a woman playing Zelda.
Right.
That's it. Like, I love the role of Zelda.
Right. That's I agree with you 100%.
And that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about my love of the game. I want to talk about the love of the character.
That would do more for the trans movement than $100 million Disney movies.
Right.
All right. Let's put this one to bed. Jim, as always.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on. That's episode 113 of The Corner. What do you got going on?
Just getting that artwork out. Make sure you stop by the socials every week.
Stitch you did.
Hey, you know what? I get it, man. Trying to jump on. Sometimes you got to try to make what's popular.
Yeah. But sometimes you got to make what the people
like
want.
I said, I've been trying to do a lot of 80s and 70s and things like that. My love of things I grew up with. I did like a real Ghostbusters piece before that.
Like that one.
But every once in a while, you have to throw in something that might be topical.
Yeah, a little poppy.
Yeah.
All right, guys, so you know where we're at. CatalystCrafting.com is the main website. Catalyst Creations NH is the Etsy store. We have a setup at the Manchester Craft Market in the mall in New Hampshire. But what do you guys think? Have you seen the Jester? Did you like it? Is it like a B or C Art the Clown? Kind of. I think it kind of is. Did you watch Until Dawn? Are you going to watch Until Dawn? Have you seen Snow White? Are you going to see Snow White? What are your thoughts on the lore and The Last of Us? And do you think they fumbled season 2? Or do you just think that the lore wasn't strong enough to keep it going? What are your thoughts on Marvel? I mean, are people booing Fantastic Four? Were you in one of those test screenings booing yourself? Let us know in the comments. All right, crew. Catch you on the next one.